Yes, what's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So, anyway, let's get into this one. So, this one, I'm just going to be speaking a bit about the undercard for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. This has now all been officially announced, and it's going to take place, as you all should know by now, in London, in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, heart of North London, and it's 26th of April. I think tickets will be available soon if they're not already. And yeah, let's just get into the undercard, because I think a lot of people sort of been complaining about it. Some people think it's all right. Some people think it's quite bad undercard, but I'll just go through some of the fights here that are on it, the fights that I know of so far. So, if it goes in the order of the sort of poster I've got from the Ring magazine, then the running order will be as follows. You've got Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur 3. Again, this is a fight where, me personally, it's not a fight I've been clamoring for or that I feel is necessary per se. And I just based that on the last fight that they had together. So the first fight, Anthony Yarde boxed quite poor. He said it was, personal problems, and we can take Anthony Yarde at his word, that he had some personal issues that he was dealing with. So therefore, he wasn't quite at the races. And then by what he done in the second fight, in the rematch where he bombed Lyndon Arthur out of there early, it lends sort of credence and gives, I suppose it kind of backs up what he was saying about not feeling quite up to it. So you got that third fight there. I mean, going by the second fight, to me, it doesn't really look like there's a need for a third fight. I mean, you could argue that Lyndon Arthur has a very good jab, which he does. He's got a good boxing brain, but I don't think he's really like a world beater. He done well to sort of last the distance against Dimitri Bivol, and he won like a lower tier title against another opponent where he pulled a knockout out of the bag. So Lyndon Arthur definitely has something to offer, but going into this fight, I'm saying he's kind of the heavy underdog here. So I can see why people feel like this fight is not really necessary. But at the same time, they are two good fighters. And I suppose depending on how Anthony Yarde approaches the fight, you could say Lyndon Arthur's got a good chance here if he stays on the back foot, and he could maybe outbox Anthony Yarde. But if Anthony Yarde, cuts the ring off quickly, gets to him and lets his hands go as he did in the second fight, I think this is another Yarde stoppage for me. Then we go down the card. We've got Liam Smith versus Aaron McKenna. Aaron McKenna, sort of a younger guy, very aggressive, quite a tall guy. And but again, I don't think he's really boxed at the levels that Liam Smith has boxed at. Smith has been up there, former world champion, boxed the likes of Canelo, lost to him. But he's been at the very highest level, and this will be a test for Aaron McKenna to see, and also this will sort of tell us what, if anything, Smith has got left. Because Smith, we last saw him in action against Chris Eubank Jr., where he got stopped in the 10th round, and Chris Eubank Jr. impressively sort of turned around the result. He got stopped by Smith in the 4th round, and he come back and beat him. So that's the last images we've got of Liam Smith, is him being stopped by Chris Eubank Jr. He did not look very good in that fight, so I think we'll have to see what he's got left here against this Aaron McKenna. But it could be an interesting fight. If Smith is fit, if he's ready, then you never know, he might be able to take this kid. Then we've got Chris Billam-Smith versus Brandon Glanton. Now, Brandon Glanton, I haven't seen much of his career, but he's having to do things a hard way. He's not a well-known cruiserweight, and he's not really proven anything much as yet, but he's got decent record. He's only taken one loss so far. And you got Chris Billam-Smith, who is fighting, who's former world champion, was able to beat Lawrence Okolie, but he's lost his last fight, which was against Ramirez of Mexico. He lost against him, Zurdo Ramirez. And Zurdo Ramirez is he's a very good cruiserweight. He's definitely, he definitely sort of proved he was better than I thought he was in the way that he beat up Chris Billam-Smith. So, yeah, Billam-Smith is on the rebound. He's looking for a win now. And you got Brandon Glanton. He's a sort of brash American character, does talk a lot. And in a sense, I don't blame him, because at the end of the day, boxing is kind of a cutthroat business. And if you don't have a good promoter behind you, if you don't have like the machine behind you, a TV deal or something like that, then you got to run your mouth, you got to talk yourself up, and you got to make people want to watch you, and whether that's for wanting to see you get beat or whether that's for wanting to see you win, you got to get people interested. So I don't really blame him for running his mouth. But here going into this fight, it could be close, it could be interesting, but I think it's a tricky one. But I suppose for me, depending on how Chris Billam-Smith's recovery is going, has he recovered from the facial injuries and everything, and I mean, he's getting a good bag for having his fight, getting a good payday. But I think you would ordinarily favor Chris Billam-Smith, but I think you've got to give this Glanton kid a chance, because there is a chance that Billam-Smith, he maybe hasn't gotten over his facial injuries. Maybe he gets hit and cuts open up, or the eye swells up or something. And if that happens, then this Black Glanton kid really has a chance. But I think based on the facts that we know of Billam-Smith having the better wins, boxing at a much higher level than this Glanton kid, and being successful, and definitely overcoming the odds in several fights, I think you've got to go with I think Billam-Smith in this fight. But we can't rule out this Glanton guy, because there could be injuries there. Maybe he's not got over the loss properly. Who knows? But should be. I think that will be a good fight. I think that might be, that fight might even steal the show. And then the last fight that I've got mentioned here is Vidal Riley. Vidal Riley versus Chevron Clark, should I say. And Chevron is coming off of a loss. Vidal Riley is undefeated, was meant to be Isaac Chamberlain fighting him. But it turns out now it's Chevron Clark who steps in as the replacement. I think this, again, is one of those fights where sort of a 50-50-ish fight. You might slightly favor Vidal Riley. He's coming in there, winning record, undefeated. He's got to protect his O, and you wonder whether how Chevron Clark is after this loss. Is his head back in the game and everything? And I think you slightly favor here Vidal Riley to outbox Chevron Clark and to outpoint him, and I think it goes a distance. But yeah, that's just my thoughts. Excuse the sneezing, but that's my thoughts on this card. I think overall it's not an amazing undercard. It's not a great undercard, but I think it's an acceptable undercard. I think the main event will be interesting, will be dramatic anyway, and I think the main event is really what people are there for. And I think there's a few fights on there. I don't know about Yard versus Arthur, but I think Billam-Smith versus Glanton, that'll be interesting. I think even Yard versus Arthur might be interesting. And the cruiserweight, all the undercard fights, they've got potential for fireworks, but I think the best one is going to be Billam-Smith versus that Glanton. But you never know, even Liam Smith, Aaron McKenna could be a good fight. I know McKenna likes to get stuck in. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this undercard. And until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over now.